The year is 2006. You got a Wii console for the family. Grandma likes the console because it's simple and she understands it easily. Billy likes the console because it looks so freaking cool, man. You like the console because it came with a little game called Wii Sports. It got tennis, baseball, bowling, golf, and boxing. Okay, so the success of Wii Sports definitely had something to do with the fact that it came bundled in with the console, but it was still a really fun game that showed off how simple the Wii's controls were, and despite its replayability, people were like, "What? That's it? But I want more." And Nintendo was like, "Hey, we're working on it." And lo and behold, 2.5 years later, they gave us a little game called Virtual Tennis 4. And also Wii Sports Resort. With just Wii Sports, it's like, yeah, these are good games, but with Wii Sports Resort, it's like, holy shit, this is amazing. You get swordplay, wakeboarding, frisbee, archery, basketball, table tennis, golf, bowling, power cruising, canoeing, bicycling, and air sports. Not to mention the fact that most of these categories have more games within them. Yeah, this one's better. Wii Sports Resort is a game I've been playing for a long time. There is a lot of replayability involved. It could just be the game you're playing is fun and simple, or you could just be trying to get all the stamps in that sport. In Wii Sports Resort, they have something called stamps, which are pretty much just achievements. Some are hard to get, and some are get a strike in bowling. Other than stamps, there's also skill levels. Doing better in games increases your skill level. And what happens when you get 1,000 points? Oh, absolutely nothing. Well, to be fair, it really depends on the sport, but the only thing I can think of is in bowling, when you get a shiny ball once you pass 1,000 points. Okay, that's worth it. So now that I've gone through the basics of Wii Sport Resort, why not go through its games in a little more detail? This will be what I think personally of all the single-player games in Wii Sport Resort. Up first, we have Swordplay Duel, and for all this, we're gonna have to pick a character. Personally, I like having a variety of different characters, so I think this one looks pretty good. Alright, so the Swordplay Duel is pretty simple. You wave around the Wii remote, hitting the opposing player over and over until one of you fall off the edge. And I really like this one. It's really satisfying to knock your opponent off the edge, and the remote responds really well to my movements. Small problem I have with this is that it gets a little too hard and I get a little impatient with this one as it goes on, but other than that, it's pretty fun. Next up is Speed Slice. This one's fun at first, but then gets old kinda quickly. You and the opponent face the same direction, and Matt, the man who's my screensaver, throws random objects at you and you have to slice it in the right direction. As the name implies, the only challenge here is the speed. You just need to beat your opponent to the slice and you get the point. You'd actually cheat in this one by pausing and unpausing rapidly. Overall, this one's fun, but it's the exact same thing every time. Swordplay Showdown. This game is one of my favorites in the entire package. Your Mii is fighting so many other Miis at once and knocking them out one by one with your sword, and there are about 20 levels, which feels like a lot. 10 normal ones and then 10 of the same ones but reversed. It goes from easy to hard very smoothly, getting only more and more slightly challenging with each passing stage. A problem I do have with it is that it gets a little too hard once you get to the later reverse stages. I don't know if that's just a me problem, but I had troubles with beating it. Other than that, it's still a fantastic game and one of the best in the entire collection. Next up is wakeboarding. This one I did not play that much when I was younger, and I can see why. There's a difference between replayable and repetitive. Replayable is a fun game that does not get old quickly. Repetitive is wakeboarding and Speed Slice. All you do is shake the Wii remote to throw your Mii in the air and then balance it out for them to land perfect. It gets really boring really quickly. The college favorite, Frisbee. There are two variants here, one Frisbee Dog and one Frisbee Golf, and yes, that is how the game says it. I'll come back to the golf one later, for now let's look at Frisbee Dog. You throw the Frisbee in the target, and if it is in the target, then the dog will catch it. This one's just okay, I never really liked it that much. You throw the Frisbee in the target, and if you're in the target, the dog will catch it. After 5 throws, then balloons start showing up and you pop those balloons for bonus points. This one always just made me angry. I always thought I threw it perfectly to hit the center, but then I find out that I was way off. Still, it's not a terrible game, and I can see why people like it. Next, we have archery, and holy shit, archery's great. You use a nunchuck and aim for the center of the target. There's different levels and cool uses of the locations on the island. This may sound a little weird, but there's various foods hidden throughout the level that you can use as secret targets. Can you name any other Wii game where you can shoot bread? I didn't think so. This is one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game in the entire collection. I spent a lot of time playing it as a kid. It's really replayable, it's simple, and it has the perfect amount of challenge. Alright, and now the basketball games. Both games in this category are incredible. 3-point contest was something I wasn't that great at when I was younger, but going back to it, I did pretty good. I honestly think I got the highest score I've ever gotten while just recording footage for this. This one is really fun to play to see if you can beat your previous score. Now, playing a pickup game is different. As the levels go on, it gets a lot harder, but that doesn't mean it's not a fun game. You can pass, steal, shoot, or even dunk. And move over, NBA 2020, Wii Sport Resort Basketball might have you beat. Well, damn it. I always thought it was really hard to block the opposing team's shot, especially when the levels got harder. But even if they did get more challenging, they were still a lot of fun to play. Table tennis. Now, We Play kind of had something like this, but it was a lot faster and definitely not as fun as this. This does feel like actual table tennis. You hit the ball back and forth and the first person to get 6 points wins. I actually beat the champion on this game a few years ago, and from what I can remember, it was challenging, but a fun challenging. Overall, it's a lot of fun. We also have Return Challenge, and this is one of the simplest games in the entire collection. You have a guy at the end of the table who's constantly throwing ping pong balls at you, and you just hit them. As long as they hit the other side, then that's a point. You could get all the stamps for this one in just one playthrough. Still, it's not a bad game in any way, but playing the table tennis game would be way better. Golf. As you can tell from my tone at the beginning, I'm not a huge fan of golf. I mean, it's not a bad game, but I really just don't like golf. Personally, I think frisbee golf is a lot more fun than regular golf. Sure, it's the exact same thing, but it's a lot easier. The hole is huge, and I even managed to get a hole-in-one while recording this. Regular golf is pretty hard for me. I always end up going in the water or just being barely out of bounds. If you had to play golf on here, I'd just play frisbee golf. Have you ever played bowling on the Wii? Have you ever drank water? Along with golf from Wii Sports, bowling is here. And it's bowling for the Wii. Fantastic, replayable, simple. I love it so much. Sure, it was with Wii Sports, but it's just nice that it's here too. Because if any game deserved to get put here from Wii Sports, it's bowling, not golf. What I'm trying to say is I'm glad that bowling is here. I'm gonna assume most of you have played bowling for the Wii, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's also an option to bowl a 100-pin game. Wii Sports had something like this, but it's just expanding the number of pins each round. 100-pin bowling is fun just for the novelty of it being 100 pins. But for me, it's really hard to get a strike. I always just have 1 or 2 pins left standing, and it's definitely not a bad game. I played it all the time, but I just wasn't that great at it. The last one we have is spin control. I like this one a lot more than 100-pin bowling. You just spin the ball with the Wii remote to maneuver around the different obstacles in the course. If you do bad, then the obstacles get easier. If you do good, then the obstacles get harder. Again, I like this one a lot more than 100-pin bowling, but definitely not as much as regular bowling. The next 3 games are in a spot I like to call the dead zone. I call it that because I hardly ever played these games, and I'm still going to praise Wii Sports Resort, even if a fourth of it are games I hardly ever played. Let's start this with Power Cruising. This one I think I've played twice in my entire lifetime. For some reason, it's really hard to control compared to the other games, and getting bonus points was really hard for me. I never liked this one and honestly forgot that it existed. Now, if you thought that was forgettable, this game also has canoeing. No f***ing way. This game is a little better than Power Cruising, but that's not saying much. It controls better than Power Cruising. You just paddle with the Wii remote and get to the end before the timer runs out. There's really not much to say about it. It's really bland. And then there's bicycling, which is probably the best of the dead zone, but that's not saying much. I got first place in my first race, and you do get to see the island in detail. It's okay, but I really just don't like the overall game mechanic. You gotta use your Wii remote and nunchuck to act like you're running, but your character's on a bike and they can only bike for a certain amount of time, so you gotta save up your energy. It just feels really complicated. I feel like this could have been a lot better. For the final category of sports, we have air sports, and these are some of the best in the game. And by these, I mean just the Island Flyer. But before I talk about that, I gotta talk about skydiving. The game actually opens up with your character jumping out of an airplane and playing the skydiving game. But the actual game involves your character just locking hands with others and taking pictures. I was never too bad at this one, but I also wasn't that great. It's a very average game, but it's pretty fun to play. Now the last and probably best game in the entire collection is Island Flyer. This doesn't have a point system, this is just basically a virtual tour of the island. You can see just about everything the island has to offer and even pop balloons that the Mii's are holding. And not to brag, but I have every single stamp for this one, and that took a long time. The main task for this game is collecting eye icons, and I didn't stutter, that's just what the game calls them. Once you collect a certain amount of eyes, the game rewards you with various things like getting your face on the hot air balloon or getting your own private island. And no, you can't go inside, it's just decoration. Damn it, 9 out of 10. Anyway, that was Wii Sports Resort. Is it game-changing? No, but it's a lot of fun. The whole island aspect adds a certain charm to it all. The aspect of your Mii existing in this island in the middle of nowhere is cool and definitely adds more personality than these random places in Wii Sports. Overall, this game was and still is one of my favorites. Most of the games are simple and fun to play, and there's also golf. But if you had a Wii, you probably had this game, and I think it's one of the best, if not the best, Wii games. But we can't forget about the spiritual successor to both Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. Wii Sports Club!